Right now, the United States owes over $34 trillion. But who do we owe it to? How did we even get here? More importantly, what can be done about it? Hey taxpayers, it's Tiffany Gonzalez, CPA here, and today I'm breaking it all down. Why do we owe $34 trillion in debt, and how do we get out of it? Let's start with exactly what the national debt is. The national debt is the total amount of money the US government owes to creditors. When the government spends more money than it collects in taxes, it has to borrow the difference by issuing treasury bonds, bills, and notes. These are essentially IOUs that the government promises to repay over time with interest. Think of it like this as yourself, a taxpayer. If you spend more than you earn, you have to use a credit card, right? Or take out a loan to cover the difference. The government does the same exact thing when it runs a budget deficit, but on a much larger scale. Where did the national debt come from? Who do we owe? The US has been in debt since its founding, but the national debt skyrocketed in recent decades. And here's why. Wars, military spending, like World War II, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, they require the US to borrow heavily to fund the military operation. Then we have the economic crisis, the 2008 financial crisis, and then COVID-19, a pandemic. Both of these led to massive government stimulus packages just to stabilize the economy. Then we have the Tax Cuts Without Spending Reductions Act. When tax revenues decreased, but the government spending stayed the same or increased, that deficit grew even more. And then you have social programs and interest payments. Programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, they're great, but they're costly. And the interest on them, on the existing debt already, has compounded over time. So who exactly do we owe this money to? The US borrows money from two main sources. First, it's the public. 78% of the national debt is owed to individuals like you and I, investors, banks, pension funds, and foreign governments that buy treasury bonds. In fact, the biggest foreign governments that buy our treasury bonds are Japan and China, and we owe them trillions of dollars. And 22% of our national debt comes from the government owing itself. Yeah, it's the Social Security and Medicare trust funds that were used to fund other expenses, and now those trust funds don't have the money to pay those things. So while we do owe other foreign countries, most of the debt is actually owed to US investors, institutions, and government programs. So will the US ever pay off its debt? Well, in theory, yes, but in reality, no, it's unlikely that the US will ever be completely debt-free. However, here are a few ways we can definitely reduce the national debt. First, it's raising taxes. It could help pay down the debt, but it's obviously politically unpopular, and nobody, including me, wants to pay any more in taxes than we already are spending or paying. But the second is cutting government spending, reducing military budgets, reducing social programs, or other expenditures. This could help, but this also has economic and political challenges. We could also grow the economy, right? Make more money. A stronger economy means higher tax revenue by default without raising the tax rates, and it actually makes it easier to reduce the deficit. There's also inflation. While inflation hurts consumers, it helps the government pay off debt because it makes past debt worth less over time. And lastly, there's debt restructuring. The government can adjust how and when it repays its debt by issuing new bonds at different interest rates. The national debt isn't just a number. You see, it affects interest rates, taxes, and the strength of the US dollar. While debt itself isn't necessarily bad, too much of it obviously creates economic instability. So the key here is balancing spending, revenue, and economic growth to ensure that the country remains financially strong. We hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook at Accounting to Scale. Until the next video, your favorite CPA, Tiffany Gonzalez.